Hi, this is the Monsoon Stories podcast from KJZZ. I'm Lauren Gilger. This year's monsoon season may be about over, but it has been a wild ride. Monsoon 2021 was one of the wettest on record. Only the July and August of 1921 beat out this year's for rainfall. We've had 20 days of measurable rain so far, and that's coming off of one of the hottest, driest monsoon seasons on record last year. This year on our Monsoon Stories podcast, we've dug into climate change and how it's affecting this uniquely Arizona time of year. But we got so many voicemails from our listeners about what the monsoons mean to you that we're bringing you one more bonus edition today. From childhood memories to predictions for the future, you said it all. Here's a sampling of what we heard from you. Kay Butler grew up in a City of Phoenix housing project until 1950 or 51, when she says her family moved to what they called a real house near 32nd Street and Thomas, out in what was at the time the country.
Unpaved roads, no sidewalks, limited bus service. Oh, and we didn't have a car.
A big dust storm was coming, and her mother told her to go quick grab something from the service porch, a sort of woodshed off the carport.
I was a skinny 10-year-old, and I ran out the back door of the house into the back door of the service porch in my underwear. As soon as I got inside, the rain and the hail started. Too hard and too dangerous to go back outside. I slammed the door, closing myself in, and it sounded like Tommy guns in the movies. It was a huge storm.
It seemed like she was stuck in there forever, she recalls, sitting on a Coast Guard footlocker that had belonged to her father.
When it all stopped, what little there was of me in my underwear were soaking wet, and I ran inside that house. Everyone and everything inside was fine. All the wood on that service porch, however, had to be completely replaced and painted. I was 10 years old, but old enough to be somebody's grandmother the first time I heard the words haboob and monsoon used on the TV weather reports in my native state. What in tarnation?
The monsoon season seems to hold special importance to a lot of us, like Kay. A marker in our memories, a seasonal shift we don't so often see here in the hot, dry desert. The rain here always seems like a departure, and as we heard from so many of you who called us this year, a good one.
Hello, this is Lonnie Jones. I grew up in Nogales, and the monsoon seasons there smelled like fresh dirt, clean air, and made you want to snuggle with somebody. It was a wonderful feeling, and I'll always remember the smell of fresh, wet dirt.
Hi, my name is Ruth Bristol.
Ruth's favorite monsoon memory happened just a few years ago. That summer, we hadn't had much rain until one torrential downpour hit.
This is when I realized that I was raising Arizona children. There were just buckets of water coming down. And the two of them were 3 and 6, and they just stripped off their clothes and ran out in the backyard. And they had so much glee and fun just jumping in the puddles and letting the waterfalls of rain come off the roof.
Ian McDonald, like a lot of us, isn't from here. And for him, the whole season was a surprise.
I'd never seen anything like the monsoon, the deluge, the light show, etc. The family that I'd married into, it was everyday stuff for them. But I would open the garage door, sit on a folding chair with a beer, and Misty the dog just watch the show.
And the impact of climate change has not been lost on many of you. For Doug Carpenter from Tucson, the drought we saw for the last few monsoon seasons was grating.
Back in June, I was out hiking and thinking just how miserably bleak and dry the desert was. And wondering if it was ever going to get green, if we'd ever see even rain again. It was awful. Everything was crisp. Even the swirls looked like they were practically deflating and getting skinny.
He was so worried, he said, that this year would be another monsoon.
But sure enough, late June, they came in. They arrived, and what a sight, what a wonderful experience to have all that rain and now all the greenery, the mountains, the hillsides, just incredibly green, something you just don't expect in the desert.
And then there's Daniel Stein-Koken. He's pretty new to the valley, but he decided to take on one of our biggest issues in the best way he could. He called us to tell us about it.
I was so concerned by the drought of the recent years, last generation, and especially last year's driest ever monsoon, as I learned the locals called it. And so I actually composed a prayer for the monsoon for this year that was recited at a number of congregations in the Phoenix area and beyond earlier this summer.
A prayer for the monsoon. We liked the idea so much, we got him on the line to tell us more.
I was looking forward to the summer of 2020, which of course turned out to be the hottest and driest ever recorded in Arizona. And so it was really after that I really began in earnest to think about writing this prayer, which I thought also is a way to, in some way, address the ongoing drought and the ongoing monsoons.
For him, it was a chance to combine ancient Jewish prayers for rain with his new life here in Arizona.
I drew upon female characters, especially since there are many great female characters in the Jewish tradition from the Jewish past who have fascinating stories involving them with water. I think here especially of Moses' sister Miriam. About whom there's a wonderful legend that a well accompanied the Israelites throughout their wanderings in the desert after their departure from Egypt, thanks to Miriam's merit. And it was actually when Miriam died that the well actually disappeared. And so a wonderful Jewish tradition. So I was sure to include that in the prayer. But I also wanted to draw upon non-Jewish traditions as well, since this is a prayer for the monsoon for the entire desert Southwest. While working on this prayer, I was fascinated to discover that the name Piestewa, referring here to Piestewa Peak after Lori Piestewa, that the name Piestewa translates loosely as the people who live by the water, from a root that connotes water pooled in the desert after a heavy rain. And when I saw that on a little informational placard just at the base of Piestewa Peak, I thought, I have to include reference to Lori Piestewa in the prayer.
So we're going to take it out with Daniel's prayer for the monsoon, which, at least this year, seems to have come true.
Tfilat HaMalkosh, a prayer for the southwest monsoon. Today we do not thirst. Canal and pipe flow forever full. In morning sun sparkle backyard pools. But from no cistern can the cactus sip. For ponderosa pine no faucet drips. Since drought has dried soil and spring, and flora and fauna pined for drink. And as we behold the parched landscape, can we not but meditate and think that our desires and demands have brought us to the brink? So let us call upon the one who once declared, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter shall not cease, to rewind the winds that have woefully waned, restoring Sonoran summer's evening rains, and on this Shabbat Hukat, to renew the monsoon as Hukat. Meshiv u'mashiv haruach, morid gishmei malkosh, cause the wind to return and blow, the monsoon rains to fall below. Remember our prophetess, the singer at the sea, the woman of the well, how upon her death in the desert the waters wane, and forgive the failing, the Israelites passing over her passing. 30 days long they mourned her brothers, their sister, not one. Meshiv u'mashiv haruach, u'morid gishmei malkosh, cause the wind to return and blow, the monsoon rains to fall below. Remember rod and rock, how they released the river, relieving and refreshing man and beast. And forgive our shepherds striking instead of speaking, our gulping instead of drinking, how the sight of sanctification submerged in quarrel. Meshiv u'mashiv haruach u'morid gishmei malkosh. Cause the wind to return and blow, the monsoon rains to fall below. Remember how when God assembled the people that they might drink, then Israel sang to the well, summoning its waters to rise anew. And forgive the motive for their chant, the crushed arms and legs of enemy troops, washed away from Wadi Arnon's caves. Meshiv u'mashiv haruach, u'morid gishmei malkosh. Cause the wind to return and blow, the monsoon rains to fall below. Remember the queen, thanks to whose wise and steady reign, rains every Sabbath fell, expanding barley, lentil, and grain. And forgive the voices that have silenced her name, voided her legacy, and foiled her fame. Meshiv u'mashiv haruach, u'morid gishmei malkosh. Cause the wind to return and blow, the monsoon rains to fall below. Remember the fallen Hopi fighter, first of her kind. Though desert-born and desert-dead, pools of water accompanied her every step. And forgive the oppression that troubled her tribe, and our foolish venture that cost her life. Meshiv u'mashiv haruach, u'morid gishmei malkosh. Cause the wind to return and blow, the monsoon rains to fall below. Remember the rounder of rounds, the repairer of roofs, whose will you fulfilled, bringing benevolence, blessing, and bounty to our land. And forgive the impertinence that brought first drizzle, thereafter flood, to grant instead rains in due measure from above. Meshiv u'mashiv haruach, u'morid gishmei malkosh, lamidbar u'lahar, lareches u'laemek. Cause the wind to return and blow, the monsoon rains to fall below, upon desert and mountain, ridge and valley. V'nir'eh kol Adonai chotzev lahavot esh, v'nishma kol Adonai yachil midbar. Nariach et bosem akreosot shehageshem mevaser, v'nirkod bezrimat hamabul et avirenu metaher. And we shall see the voice of Adonai forming fiery flames, and hear the voice of Adonai shaking the desert. We shall smell the creosot's fragrance heralding rain, and we shall dance amid the downpour's descent, purifying our air. La rotev velo la yavesh, la maleh velo la rek, la firya velo la shmama. For wetness and not for dryness, for fullness and not for emptiness, for flourishing and not for barrenness. Ana Adonai chadesh meimenu kakedem, Ana Adonai restore our waters as before. Ana Adonai chadesh meimenu kakedem.
That's it for this year's Monsoon Stories podcast from KJZZ. I'm Lauren Gilger. Thank you for listening, and thanks for hoping for rain.